Because I'm here to tell you, it's tough. It's tough as hell to be a super success. And anybody that tells you any different hasn't been there, hasn't done that. I personally made over 300 individual financial presentations all over the world looking for money. Another new rule, and we're going to talk about raising capital in a few minutes, but there is somebody, someplace in this world today that will finance every Rufus deal in this room. But it's your job to find them. Well, let me give you a little hint. The biggest difference between me and the audience, high-performance people that are mega successful and the audience, is that we do things that make you feel nauseous. We do things that make you feel uncomfortable. We do things that give you high anxiety. I.e., this is the Quantum Leap barf bag. Normally, we have one on every seat, so you can carry in your purse or you can carry in your pocket like I do. Because whenever I start to get uncomfortable, I know that I'm making progress. Quantum Leap barf bag. We have these between a high-performance person and most everybody else, is that they have worked on making sure their emotional checkbook is never overdrawn. And you get that by having good self-esteem for yourself, working on your self-esteem, and helping others build their self-esteem. Because I've already said 2 or 3 times, the more self-esteem we give, the more that we will receive. Most unsophisticated business people, ladies and gentlemen, spend too much time planning. You Lotus 1, 2, 3 these things to death.
Prior to founding Great Western Resources, Dan was chairman and co-founder of JPK Industries, an energy company. He also held the position of vice president at the investment banking firm Bear Stearns & Company. He was director of financial planning at Payne, Weber, Jackson & Curtis, president and CEO of Kennedy Industries Incorporated, president of his own consulting firm, OpuComp, and serves as chairman of his personal holding company, Great Western Development Corporation. He is chairman of CanCaddy, founder and chairman of PHG Incorporated, chairman of Firo Resources, chairman of Success Development Incorporated, chairman of Property Tax Consultants Incorporated, and chairman of the Warner Company. Since leaving Wall Street, Peña has had successful negotiations with Credit Lyonnais, British Petroleum, Chemical Bank, Shell Oil, Mid-Atlantic Bank, Chevron, Bank of Scotland, Hunt Oil, Credit Suisse, Citicorp, Texaco, Union Bank, Fidelity, Barclays Bank, Prudential, Onasa Shipping Lines, S.G. Warburg, Bank of America, Security Pacific, Bank One, Home Savings, Coopers & Lybrand, Ernst & Young, and Deloitte Haskins & Sells, and many more. He has also had successful negotiations with the United States, Israeli, Kuwaiti, Yemen, Chilean, Mexican, Indonesian, Philippine, Japanese, and the Netherlands governments. In addition, he has successfully transacted business with the Church of England and the Bank of England. He has also been a financial advisor to the Vatican. Peña has been featured on the television program Making It, Minority Success Stories, CBS News, and the prestigious British Broadcasting Company, among others. He has received the Latin Business Association Outstanding Business Owner Award and the John Regan Award for Excellence by the Center for Entrepreneurial Management. He was appointed to the United States Presidential Roundtable Senatorial Committee and to the Executive Committee of the Alliance for a Safer Los Angeles. He is currently a member of the Trust Fund Board and the Foundation Board of California State University, Northridge, where he graduated with a Bachelor of Science degree in Business Administration while on the Dean's List while carrying 23 units. He has been featured in many domestic publications, including a Pulitzer Prize-winning article in the Los Angeles Times, Entrepreneur Magazine, the National Law Journal, Robb Report, and Hispanic Business. He has also been featured in dozens of United Kingdom publications, including the Financial Times. Dan didn't always have financial security. He grew up in Los Angeles with his mother and his father, who was a policeman who at one time worked 2 extra jobs to make ends meet. He didn't do well in high school, he dropped out of college, and volunteered for the draft. Dan entered the Army as a private and left as an officer. While in the service, he gained a real sense of responsibility when he was put not only in charge of himself, but of the people who served under him. This was a turning point in Dan's life. After the service, he returned to college with a vengeance and graduated in half the time it would have normally taken. He decided to turn his life around.
What we're going to talk today about is raising capital. Now, how many of you are in businesses that have 1 to 5 employees? Raise your hand. Okay, how many of you don't have a business and you're the only employee, or you got no employees? Okay, 5 to 10 employees. And nobody. Okay, now, what I'm going to talk about for the next 90 minutes is germane whether you have no employees or 1,000 employees. Most of what I'm going to talk about I learned when I had no employees. The first year that I was in business by myself, I did $50,540,000 in business. I had 1 employee, and he's standing up here in a 3-piece suit. Now, I had no money. And so some of the things that I developed the hard way, trial and error. How many of you have made a financial presentation to some sort of financial institution looking for money in the last 12 months? Okay, in the last 1 month, in the last week. Okay, this morning. Well, a couple of you pitched me this morning, so I mean, I'm about like a financial institution, so. Well, that's not enough, ladies and gentlemen. I've made over 300 one-on-one financial presentations on 5 continents. I've been turned down more than this room cumulatively for money. But as I alluded to yesterday, somewhere, someplace, there is a doofus financial institution, and I've heard some funky deals in this group. You have got, not weirder than I've ever heard, but you've got some weird deals in this group. But as weird as they are, you can find somebody to give you money. How many of you live in a community that they've opened up a new bank in the last 6 months? A new branch of a bank. Okay. Why do they open up a new branch? Why does B of A or Bank of Georgia, why do they do that? Do you realize when a bank opens up a new branch, that branch has no customers? Do you realize when I looked for money years ago, I would drive up in my car, I would wait till 9 o'clock rolled around, and I would be the first person through the door. And you realize every new bank that I ever went to, every branch that I went to, I got money out of. By definition, ladies and gentlemen, they have no customers. When Johnny Carson, the former host of The Tonight Show, opened up his bank in Beverly Hills, I was the first customer on the books. I rolled up in my limousine. By this time I had a limousine. My chauffeur woke me up at 9 o'clock and said, "Boss, it's open." I went in there, and a guy named Mark Stasinas, who was the vice president general manager, made me a loan. I was the only person in the bank until about 10:45. Between 9 and 10:45, not one human being walked through those doors. By definition, every single one of you live in a neighborhood or in an area where they've opened up a branch of a bank, whether it's a new bank or an old bank. New banks are even better. By definition, they have no customers. Am I the only human being in the United States that knows this? I think not. Every single human being in this room can go to the branch of a bank that's just opened up and get money. They have no customers. They've got money. I just recently, with one of my partners, you going to a branch bank right now, Doc? I just went through 9 financial presentations in Fresno, California. And Fresno's not such a great place to be, but I happen to be chairman of a company, the Warner Company there. It's the oldest jewelry chain in the state of California, founded in 1867. And I've got a partner named Casey Stevenson, who's a graduate of all the seminars, been to the castle, and helped him get quite rich. And we went through 9 presentations. We interview banks. One of the things that you do is you interview banks. You don't go in there on your knees like most of you. Could you give me some money, please? That's how most of you go in the bank. Some of you crawl in on your belly, and you wonder why the banks won't give you any money. Well, we went through 9 presentations, and I was trying to prove a point, because we're trying to buy several chains, jewelry chains across the country, and I can't go to all the presentations. I don't have time. I'm the chairman of 10 companies. So I wanted to prove a point to my partner, so we had 9 presentations in 2 days. Every single bank, major bank that came in to talk to us, we told them we were interviewing them. We are changing from Wells Fargo Bank because the 90s are all about service, and right now we have what's called a deposit relationship with our bank. We deposit money in, they give us nothing back. Sometimes they give us interest. That's the kind of banking relationship most of you in this room have. Every single one of the 9 major banks told us the same thing. We are flush with cash. In this century, we have never had more money chasing fewer deals. Exactly those words. Ladies and gentlemen, the banking industry is flush with cash. You may not have been able to extract any, probably because you haven't asked. If you are not making at least 2 financial presentations a week, you are pissing into a hurricane. Not the wind, a hurricane. 2, I talk to 2 or 3 bankers a week, whether I need to or not, just to keep in practice. Okay. Second thing, if you are asking money for a project that you need today, you are wasting your time. You interview banks for future financial representation, not today. There's 4 or 5 of you that have talked to me that you need money like you need blood in your veins. It may be too late. You don't go to a bank or a financial institution looking for money the day you need it. You say, we are going to go through an interviewing process and we're going to find the best bank that makes the best fit, chemistry, etc., etc. What you're really doing is you're going to keep talking to banks until you find one that will give you the money, whether there's any chemistry or not. We have been taught historically, through conventional wisdom, that bankers, lawyers, etc. are taboo. My parents would no more negotiate or try to negotiate an interest rate on a mortgage than they would to jump off of a tall building. It's just not in them. Some of you are from that same vintage, not in years, but in mentality. The financial institutions today, it is a cutthroat business. Bankers will drive across the country. We called a banker the day before yesterday, and I can only be in Fresno this coming Tuesday. And we found a deal. That's after we went through the interviewing process. We found 4 of the 9 banks loved us. 2 of the 9 banks hated us. 2 of the 9 banks were mediocre. So we send our package, not a financial plan. How many of you have made financial presentations taking a financial plan with you? Wrong. Wrong. You don't take a financial plan. You're interviewing, and then even after you interview, we narrowed it down to 4 banks now, and then you call them in and you tell them, well, this is the second round of interview. You made the cut. And this is our package. Without a financial plan, and you have the resumes or profiles of your dream team. Nobody in this room's got a dream team, but now you know from yesterday you should have one, okay? You have some simple mission statement, 1 page. Our goal is to dominate, etc., in the state of Georgia and in Athens County or wherever the hell you are. Part of that package is also the track record of your dream team. You don't have a dream team, you better get one. Otherwise you're going to have trouble finding money, that's for sure. Then after the 4 banks or 5 banks that we've narrowed it down to have that time to assimilate that package, then you have another meeting. And I'm not talking about you give them the package in the morning, you call them in the afternoon. And you go through a filtering process. After they've read the package, maybe only 1 or 2 of the banks will be interested in you. And you tell the banks things like this: what kind of services can I expect for my employees, myself, my directors? And I'm talking about boxes at the Atlanta Falcons games or whatever. You talk about all those things because that's what they do for customers now. We haven't deposited a nickel yet. We haven't showed them one financial paper yet. And all the banks will not go through an interviewing process. And the banks that will not go through an interviewing process, you don't want to talk to. How many have been doing banking with the same bank for the last 5 years? 10 years? That's awful. That is just pathetic. Burl Crump, the lady I talked about yesterday, the nurse from Canada who went in and just closed her construction business down, that was worth $5 million, was now worth 25 or 30 million. She told me, and boy, I jumped all over her case. She said, I've been doing business, she was real proud of herself. I've been doing business with the Royal Bank of Canada for 25 years and they never turned me down. In the circles I run in, I'd be a laughingstock if I told them I'd never been turned down. Donald Trump gets turned down. And since then, she stopped doing business with the Royal Bank of Canada, and now she does it, I forget which bank now. See, all the things you've learned, all the preconditioning that you've had. You know, I said yesterday, the cost of education is nothing compared to the price of ignorance. So just think about that. All the things that you've allowed to slip through your fingers, all the deals, all the net worth. Maybe some of you aren't interested in making money. And this group's no different than almost every group that I talk to. All the preconditioning you've had, your life, is wrong. It's absolutely wrong. Now, see, I'm interested in, as the program says, champagne wishes and caviar dreams. And if you're not, what I'm about to talk about, you might as well just go to the bathroom or go have a cup of coffee. Now, these two ladies, one of these ladies was here yesterday. The lady on the right, Deanne Verdier, she had to go back. She had a financial presentation to make today, and as much as she likes to hear me talk, we're partners. Burl Crump is the lady from Canada on the left, and they're called my Quantum Leap Assassins. Burl's only made about $25 million using these techniques in the last 25 months, and I don't know how much Deanne has made, but they own a cable TV station now, and but Deanne's husband had been doing business with the same bank for 21 years. First thing he did when he left the seminars, he went back and they doubled his line of credit on the phone. And I said, you should have gone in person, because if they doubled it on the phone, you should have made them quadruple it in person. Some of you in this room don't have a line of credit, and I'm not going to ask that question, other than the credit cards you have. And if you think those are line of credits, something is wrong with you. Because my son that's 12 years old has a MasterCard. My son that's 14 January 1st has an American Express card. Any moron on the face of the earth can get a credit card now. So don't be feeling proud of yourself because you got credit cards. But if this isn't what you're interested in, and these two ladies have just taken this one aspect of what they've learned from me in the last couple years, and they've made a religion out of it. Because you need money. Unless you're quick turning houses on the no finance method that Ron uses, and I would suggest that you start thinking about fishing with nets instead of lines. And I was asked last night and again this morning, some of you don't understand what I mean to fish with nets instead of lines. So I'm going to give you a real graphic example. Now we all know, some of you are fishing with a line with no hook. Some of you even got a hook on it. Some of you got even treble hooks and more than one hook. But not many of you got any bait on the hooks. And I know maybe you're fly fishermen, or the deal, and you don't need bait. What I'm talking about is we're setting up a net across the river. And we're not letting any fish through. We're scooping every son of a gun out. For example, some of you buy houses one at a time. One of the most successful guys, or the most successful guy of the LeGrand real estate deal that I talked to a year ago in Orlando, he made 20, 30, 40, 50 offers a week. Most of you are afraid, if that's what you do, to make 20, 30, 40, 50 offers a week, because you may get them accepted. And then what are you going to do? I asked him, is there any reason you couldn't make 200 offers a week? He said, well, I'd have to get some more employees, but probably not. Some of you have never made an offer on a house. Some of you have attended these seminars and will continue to attend the seminars and continue to buy the products, and you never understand the products well enough to accept the fact that you've got to go out and take action. You can go to seminars from now until you die, until maggots are eating your eyes out. And unless you take action, history with me doing these seminars is 21 days. Actually, it's 21 hours. If you don't do something 21 hours from today, in other words, within the first day, you're never going to do anything. Never. These two ladies have changed the way they live. Maybe that's not important to some of you. That's Deanne Verdier before she started calling on financial institutions. That's a little piece of crap Mayada. This is Deanne Verdier now. That's her new home, her mansion, and that's her, whatever, the 100 grand or whatever that Mercedes costs. And on the license plate of this Mercedes says Quantum Leap. And then I borrowed it in my Rolls now. I have Quantum Leap. QTM LEP. Or LEAP, excuse me. Now, this is before she came to Georgia, or when she lived in Georgia. She looked happy. Happy and poor. Wait a minute, see? She looked happy and poor there. And then she started calling on banks. Looks kind of sultry in there, doesn't she? Be all right. I can live that way. So just think about when we go through these. You too. I'm sorry that she couldn't stay. Now, if you think that you're going to learn how to raise money by buying stuff like this, this is another for $69. And I think that's from Entrepreneur Magazine, I think. I have got a bridge to sell you in London. First of all, the people that write these courses on this have never raised any money. I've raised over $1 billion when you couldn't raise money. So what I'm about to talk about works. I raised it in the energy industry when oil went from $40 a barrel to $8 a barrel. You couldn't borrow money then. You think banks wanted to finance energy deals? You were nuts. But that's why I went to Australia, I went to Santiago, Chile, I went to Buenos Aires, I went to Hong Kong, I went to Tokyo, and you're saying, I don't have money to do that, Dan. I didn't either. I flew whatever the cheapest way. I even took a boat one time, because when I figured out you'd get places by boat cheaper than by plane. You know what it is to take a 3-week tramp steamer to Australia? But I was willing to pay that price. I was willing to pay that price. If you're not willing to pay that price, then I would submit to you that you're wasting your time. Now, why in God's name do banks spend all this damn money on these deals? Because they're flush with cash, and you're not smart enough to get your ass off the chair and go in and get it. It's no different than if I stood on the corner outside this hotel and I asked 100 women, would you come up to my suite with me? You can bet your sweet ass somebody's going to say yes. I can't make it any more graphic than that. You don't have the money for your projects because you don't ask for it. And you don't ask for it is because you don't believe in it enough. And if you don't believe in it enough, the bank knows it and you know it, and that's why you don't ask them. Because you know what they're going to say. If you don't go in with as much enthusiasm as you're seeing me show here, the chances of you getting what you want out of a financial institution are next to zero. Most of you are dealing with your financial institution like they did in the last century. It has changed. This is almost 1996. 4 more years we're going to be into the new century. You've seen Mr. McAllister show you all these modern things that you can do with a PC. Well, banking has changed. It's changed, ladies and gentlemen. The money's there. It's not the money you got to worry about, it's the deal. And what you're really telling me and telling yourself is you don't believe in your damn deal enough to get up off your dead ass and go and ask for the money. It's like the best looking girl in school, you never asked her out. She never had a date. Unless she was good at some extracurricular activities, and that spreads pretty quick. Her reputation, that is. It's no different. I have a young man that works with me. He's the youngest mayor in the United States. His name is Mayor Fidel Vargas. He went to Harvard. When he was home, going to go to graduate school to get an MBA, he went home to Baldwin Park. It's a city of about 100,000 people. And he felt so strongly, he postponed going back and getting a master's, and he ran for mayor when he was 22, and when he was elected, he was 23, youngest mayor in the United States. He wants to own a sports franchise. And I said, who are the five most successful sports franchises in America? And he said, well, the Lakers were one. I said, let's call Dr. Jerry Buss. Oh, I could never call Dr. Jerry Buss. Get your ass on, call Dr. Jerry Buss. We called him 3 times. He called him. Third time he got through to one of his administrative assistants. To make a long story short, Jerry Buss had him up to his box, talked to him, spent 5 hours with him. Jerry Buss said, because I made him ask this question, how many times have you been called Dr. Buss? You are the first person in 25 years that's ever called. I ask people to call me, and I'm in front of thousands. You know how many people call me a month? 2, 3, maybe. This group's no different. I told Dr. Walker, who picked me up at the airport yesterday, or whenever I flew in, nobody's ever offered to pick me up at the airport, and I spent 3 hours with her talking about her deal. Nobody. And I ask people to call me. My number's 1-800-QUANTUM. Now there's 2 rules of finance when you borrow money. 1, borrow bucks, borrow big bucks. And then when you have problems, you got partners. If you need 10,000, borrow 50. I've got a pilot named Lenny Knock. His claim to fame, he doesn't do anything, no financial background. He went to college. He's a pilot with U.S. Air. His claim to fame is he was the Bachelor of the Month in Cosmopolitan 5 or 6 years ago. That's about his claim. He had all he does is chase flight attendants, female flight attendants. That's about all he knows how to do. He attended one of these deals. He is now close to putting together $1 million worth of line of credit. He's gone to 20 banks and gotten $50,000 line with each bank. He doesn't even have a business. He's got nothing to spend it on. He's put together the dream team. He believed me. He heard me in January. He went and he got Coopers and Lybrand. He got Butcher Singer in Philadelphia, one of the largest regional brokerage firms in the country, and he got some big law firm. He has bought breakfast for one of them, and I was mad at him for doing that. Because when you go through this interviewing process and you meet these people for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, you will not live long enough to not have where you'll ever have to pay. They will buy you breakfast, lunch, and dinner from now until the next century begins. And I slapped Lenny around because he bought breakfast for one of these doofuses. He's got his whole dream team. He's got $1 million line of credit now, and he's got no business to find. He has no business to buy yet. He actually went out and did what I told him to. He believed me. The guy lives in a castle, he's got his own golf course. Jesus. And if 1 or 3 or even 5 over prime makes a difference in your deal, the deal's too tight. There's no margin for error, and there'll be errors. If your deal doesn't pencil out, or the difference between 3 over prime and 5 over prime kills your deal, throw your deal in the trash can. Because there are going to be errors, there are going to be mistakes. You plan, God laughs. Man plans, God laughs. Well, my deal's got 17% cash on cash, Dan. The bank knows if your deal's only got 17% cash on cash, it's not going to float. Why do you think they all want additional secondary source of payment, collateral, etc., etc.? Because they know your numbers aren't worth a damn. That's why. I've never seen a set of numbers that were right in 25 years. So yours aren't going to be the first. I said this yesterday. If your deal is so tight that that makes a difference, your deal's no damn good. But instead, you'll try to fix it. Well, I'll make it better, Dan. instead of turning the key even on a concept. Now, there are such things as angels. I'm considered an angel, financial angel. An angel is some old doofus that's got a lot of money that will fund a project. There are people like that around. But I already told you, when I do it, if I put up all the money, maybe I didn't tell you. Yesterday somebody says, well, how do you do business? At the dinner last night, which was very interesting, they had some hard questions there. They had some reasonably bright people at the dinner. I was stunned. I was stunned. I was impressed. When I put up all the money as an angel, I take 85 or 95% of the deal, and I give the founder, the boss, the CEO, the chairman, 1 year to prove himself that I shouldn't throw him out on his ass. I'll say that a little slower because I can tell it didn't register with anybody. If I put up all the money, I take 85 to 95% of the deal. And I have done that before. And then I give them a year to determine whether they can really manage, because most people can't manage. They think they can. I'm not a day-to-day manager because I learned a long, long time ago I can't manage day-to-day. I'm a concept guy. Okay, so there are people like this. The angels to people in this room they try to get the money from their mother-in-law, father-in-law, relatives, etc., etc. There's a project in here that has 80 investors in it, and they've raised over $5 million over the last 5 years, which is an average of about $60,000 an investor. And some of those may have been forms of angels, but most of you, I would submit to you, are not going to find financial angels. And why aren't you going to find financial angels, ladies and gentlemen? That's exactly because you don't ask. You just don't. And why don't you ask? Because you don't believe in the deal enough, or because you don't want it badly enough. Bank mergers give states a chance to get funding pledges for small businesses. Another opportunity. When you see two banks merge, normally they have changed their whole lending philosophy to adopt either bank A's or bank B's. That is a grandiose opportunity for people like you to go in and get funding. Recently there was a merger of two women banks in Southern California. I told the ladies that I happened to be talking to that week, ladies, how many? I was in front of a group of women, and if you can imagine this, National Association of Women Business Owners, NABO, has been sponsor for my seminars. It's hard to believe because I'm just not a NABO kind of guy, you wouldn't think. But I told them the truth. I didn't tell them what they wanted to hear. And they wanted to know how to raise money, so they brought me in, and I told them. When banks merge, it's a tremendous opportunity. You can read in the Wall Street Journal, or what paper do they have in Atlanta? Atlanta Constitution. Okay. It's a tremendous opportunity. Just like when new bank branches open. And it's even better when a bank comes into town that's new, that hasn't been there. God almighty, you ought to sleep over with a tent out in front of their door. Two private equity funds formed to focus on lending to small businesses in the state. How many read the paper here every morning? That's where I get these things. They're not always out of the Wall Street Journal. Sometimes they're out of local papers. I mean, you ought to be, when you see this, you ought to be calling these people up. I still call them up. And if I still call them up, God almighty, what should you be doing? Now I'm going to go through some key things about raising money. My partners that I'm in business with right now, they practice financial presentations. Then I play the banker, even if I'm on the phone, and I listen, okay, and I ask hard questions. You will think of all the questions that a banker would ask you. They're pretty simple. But if you practice them, I used to practice asking out a girl on my first date. I went to my 30-year high school reunion 3 years ago, and I sat next to this girl, and she looked like my grandmother. Years had not been kind to her. And I told my wife, I said, to think I used to practice in front of a mirror to ask her out. But I practice. I still practice. I practice these presentations. You're not good at it because you don't practice it. Why do professional athletes practice, practice, practice? Why do Olympic athletes practice, practice, practice? Why? To get better, obviously.